Hey, what's up? Um, yeah, so far it's been kind of, I don't want to say disappointing, more like, alright, about a while ago, and when I say a while ago, probably about a week or so ago, I finally saw the second trailer to the Venom movie. And yeah, it killed my hype. It killed my excitement for it because, alright, the first trailer was great. It had everything right. The problem with the second trailer is like, I mean, the only issue I had with the first trailer was obviously the way they pronounced the word symbiote or symbiote. They pronounce it as symbiote, and symbiote, and it's just like that one. It's kind of bothered me. Now the second trailer, it's like as if they took one of the, for example, one of the best iconic scenes from the first trailer when you see Tom Hardy look like he's lying down on a table, and you see the symbiote crawling up his neck, and he just looked like he having a spasm attack, going crazy. It was great. Now, in the second trailer, they took that scene, and it literally looked like they took a projecting machine and projected Venom face as Tom Hardy's going crazy. And yeah, that to me was like, no. And there's just a lot of things that pretty much, let's just say, all something my excitement for the movie is wearing down. It's like, I don't know. But I am going to go see it. I'm just like, now I'm like, my expectations just, yeah. So anyway, besides that, the point of this video is pretty much, well, as you guys know, obviously, I am a huge fan of Venom. I love the character. I have a lot of favorites, and Venom's one of them. I don't really rank them, but when something's my favorite, it's my favorite. I mean, I love Venom as an anti-hero. I love Venom as a villain. To me, the character, there's just so much that it's just like, he's a badass. He just, the mentality, the way get things done. It just, Venom, like I said, there's so much more. And the thing is, what I really like about Venom is how much of a longevity and an impact he has within the world of comics, not just within Spider-Man. But, and like I said, I mean, so that's why that's obviously, as I mentioned in my video when I was pretty much talking about the first Venom trailer, there's just so much I just love about that character. Now, the point of this video is because, well, it's kind of funny. A couple of people around my work area that read comics, they want to get my input on the I think Venom issue number 4 it was, where it has pretty much the character known as Knull. And they were like, hey, have you read the new issue? And I was like, why? I haven't gotten a chance to do it yet, and just for preference, I don't care for spoilers. It doesn't bother me. To me, I look at that as an added advertisement to either check something out, whether it's movies, comics, mangas, anime, whatever. Spoilers don't affect me. I'm not like some people were like, don't spoil it for me. However, for this topic, I had to be like, you know what, I want to find out for myself. Because they were like, oh yeah, there's this character named Knull, and he's supposedly the god and creator of the symbiotes. And as soon as dude said that, I was like, alright, I'm gonna stop you right there. I gotta go find it and read it for myself. And what's funny though was the other dude, he was like, yo, did you know Knull is Swedish for fuck? And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, because he's part Swedish. On his father's side of the family, his father's grandparents or great-grandparents, something like that, are from Sweden. And they speak Swedish. So it's like, his dad speaking, and he knows some of the words. He's not going to have a full conversation, but he do know some of the words enough to, if he were to ever try to communicate with somebody in Swedish, he can pull it off. But anyway, I just thought it was great because whoever created the character and is like, yeah, let's call him Knull. If you did not know that it's, Swedish for fuck, good job. But if you did, that's still a good job, because that's like, to me, I think that's funny. That's awesome. Anyway, so finally I recently read the comic, and I had to borrow it, and I had to give it back. But the thing is, I'm kind of conflicted, because I don't know if I enjoyed it or I didn't. That comic pretty much, to me, in my opinion, raised a lot of plot holes. Not just within its comic realm, but within everything else, like the lore and everything else. It's just, like, for example, now obviously I'm going to spoil, I'm not going to give y'all a spoiling warning, it's just pretty much obvious. But these are the plot holes that I see. Now, first of all, there's this character named Knull. Knull is literally, well, you could sort of say he's like an entity that's just floating around in this void, empty nothingness of space. He just by himself. And he's pretty much, in a way, narrating, but pretty much talking to you. It's not like a Deadpool thing where, Deadpool is breaking the fourth wall. It's like a narration, keep you up to speed, so to speak. And immediately when he, like, introduces himself, I'm like, okay, your name is Knull, but you're the only one here floating around doing nothing. So that means somebody had to call you Knull, or there's no way he was just around and his name happened to be Knull. It's like he had to be made or named, and why is he there by himself? How did he get there? It's like that plot hole itself, all it did was open up more questions or doors where it's like, yeah, now you gotta explain that to explain that. It's just, yeah. So anyway, and he described this nothingness of space, his kingdom. Then all of a sudden, these Celestials just showed up, and they were like, okay, time to home decorate. They just became decorators for the moment. And Knull was like, what the? Who y'all? Y'all ain't coming here to Bob Ross this motherfucker. No. Oh, hell no. This is my kingdom. So he got pissed, and he stuck his hand into this empty thing, and he pulled out this living blade, which obviously is the first symbiote. And it's like it's just like, okay, that's kind of cool. And out of retaliation, he took out one of the Celestials. Now the Celestials, obviously, they're the ones creating the planet, the stars, galaxies, all that stuff. Creating space. And they're giant, but I can't really tell if they're like giant, like Galactus giant, but they're big dudes. So he beheads one of them, and the other cats were like, oh, nah, we're not letting that slide. So they sort of pretty much pummeled him. And he used the beheaded Celestial that he beheaded as a, like, infirmary to sort of like, okay, now I'm going to really have to fight. So he took this living blade and tried to shape it up into something sort of better. Now, this living blade obviously is a symbiote, and it's the first. And I will admit, I like the idea of this is where the sort of weakness that all symbiotes or the Klyntars, have, where, yeah, the symbiotes is actually a race, and they describe themselves as the Klyntars, which I'll get into that later. But anyway, where the weakness is, they're weak against fire and sound, because when he was in that, he could create that infirmary, he was doing his best to shape it by using fire, and he was beating on it with the hammer. So the sonic sound of the hammer pounding it was hurting it, and the heat from the fire was so great and so much that it was like seriously burning it. It wasn't exactly killing it, but that's how it became a weakness, a dominant trait, which ended up passing on to all the other future symbiotes, which I will say, okay, that's kind of nifty. I can sort of see that. That's kind of cool. And then he created like an armor, and he was like, all right, now he's gonna go to war, sort of one man wave against the Celestials, and he put up a good fight, even though he lost. But he did put up a good fight, and the other Celestial, they banished him into a different void, so to speak, and that's where he started, trying to, understand the symbiotes in a way, his creation, and he discovered that if it bonds with another living being, it becomes more of a helpful tool. And because he's the one that created this, he's seeing all this, he's kind of like a science thing, he has like a mental link with the symbiote, or a psychic link, whatever, however you want to look at it. And this caused him to create more symbiotes, or Klyntars, or whatever. And that's what happened. It's like from there, it's like all of a sudden he created all of them. Now, this was based, the whole floating thing, before obviously space happened. So he was floating around the void of nothing. But anyway, he started sending them out to different worlds and stuff to pretty much find hope, and he could use them to sort of have like a world domination, but not really. Sort of like, think of it like he's trying to start a plague, or have a lot of spies and infirmaries here and there for him to attack, and all he's doing is just chilling in this one spot, and he can actually see what they see, which is kind of, nifty, I guess. Well, he then sent one to Earth. This was like way, like older Earth, and this thing took like a form of a dragon, and this dragon got defeated by Thor himself. And this raised another plot hole. It's like, okay, Thor defeated a symbiote. How come when he first met Venom, he didn't know what it was? I mean, there should have been some remnant or something where he's like, I don't know why, but I have this eerie feeling that I met something like you before. But you never read or seen anything in any form of interaction when it comes to Thor and Venom, so, but I understand they're trying something new, I guess. But anyway, when Thor defeated, he didn't just defeat this symbiotic dragon. He severed its link and tie with Knull, to the point where Knull all of a sudden lost all his link to all the other symbiote or Klyntars, out doing their own thing, under his control. And that caused them to become more sentient. And some of these symbiotes has benevolent hosts, so that made them start seeing things like, sort of like goody two-shoe. And all of a sudden the Klyntars, well, I'm going to start calling them symbiotes. Klyntars, symbiote, I'm probably confusing you guys. So the symbiotes, all of a sudden, were like, hey, we're doing all these things bad, and we've always been interested in the light. Like, they've always wanted to be a part of the light. Because if you think about it, they were made out of darkness. And if you really think about it, if you want to have more like a metaphor or philosophical note to it, you can't really have darkness without the light. And at the same time, you can't really have light without darkness. Because without the other, how is there light and how is there dark? You know what I mean? So, the symbiotes want to be one with the light, so because of that, they look at Knull like, he's kind of an asshole. Let's get rid of him. But they can't because, he's like their creator and God. So what they ended up doing is all multitude of them got together and captured him and then started evolving around him like a ball. Like the planet Klyntar is an actual planet, but it's not really a planet. See, in their language, it means the language Klyntar it actually means cage. There is a cage-sized planet filled with all these symbiotes that's bonded together, chained together, linked together, however you want to look at it, to hold Knull, who is at the center of it all, surrounded by millions of these things. And I'm like, oh, that's another plot hole because remember what was it? It was either Venom versus Carnage or Carnage versus Venom when Carnage found out that it was pregnant, and then that symbiote birthed Toxin, and Toxin being the offspring of Carnage, Venom made a point Q that he is number 100. That's a very special meaning because Toxin is pretty much the OP symbiote of all symbiotes. Like, it is, like, ridiculously powerful. And Venom wanted to take him under his wing because he's young and sort of train him because there's a special meaning. There's something impactful about a symbiote becoming the 100. But you got a planet-sized cage filled with millions of symbiotes holding down one dude. However, the number 100, you know what I mean? It's like that caused a plot hole with that storyline. Because, like, okay, then that almost make Toxin irrelevant because he's number 100. Yet you got this planet, which is now just a bunch of Klyntars that link together. And there's, like, this is a big-ass planet. You know, this ain't no, like, oh, it's a small-ass marble. No, it's, so you can pretty much gather it's got like hundreds of thousands or millions, hundreds of millions to hold down Knull. So, yeah, that hurt that. And remember, Knull is somewhat deemed as a god in a way. So these are his creations. Now here's another thing. When he was fixing the first symbiote, you know, making it more like a impactful sword, you know, using the fire and the hammer, he recognized, it seemed like my blade don't like the heat, or, you know, certain degree of the heat, or the sound of my hammer. Him discovering that, wouldn't you want to, you know, figure out a way to upgrade it to make it more invincible? But then again, you know, that sword did end up forming a reputation and did help him, you know, have a decent fighting chance against the Celestials. That's why when they beat him, the first thing they did was they took away his sword. So, yeah, but just saying, that would have been like a common sense idea. And, yeah, it just, I mean, these plot holes that I'm naming, it's like, they may not seem that important, but in a way, it does have a major effect, like I said. Where Knull come from. Now, in my mind, I'm thinking, you know, here I am trying to be creative. Maybe Knull, from the past life or whatever, in his version or whatnot, he found the gauntlet, found all the power stones, and snapped his finger, and then that's how he is where he is. You know, kind of like what Thanos did. And just so happened to Celestials looked at it and been like, no, this is wrong. We need to restore balance. And that's why they popped up. That's just me guessing. I'm not saying that's factual. That's just me guessing. But other than that, with the fact that there's no explanation and the fact that, hey, I'm creating a weapon. Oh, it looked like the weapon has weakness. Either throw it away or upgrade it so it no longer has those weaknesses. Nah, I'm just going to leave it as is. To me, that doesn't make sense. And yeah, and the fact that, like I said, since he lost his link, his psychic mental link and control over these symbiotes, they become more sentient. But you would think, since they becoming more sentient, they will also become more instinctual, because remember, these are pretty much symbiote. They're ravenous. And plus, the whole thing about the symbiotic dragon and Thor defeated it, for the years that I've known, Spider-Man or the astronauts, I mean, it depends on which lore you look at, is the reason why Venom became on planet Earth in the first place. And from what that origins, it was, he was the first one to be on the planet Earth. But the fact that, you know, you're trying to tell me now, so many years prior, no, he wasn't the first. You know, it's kind of like, and plus, even though Thor defeated that dragon-like symbiote or Klyntar, wouldn't it make sense there's some remnants of that dragon somewhere in the, in Thor's castle, like a hall of weapons or a hall of fame, or oh, these are the beasts I defeated, or some remnants of that symbiote been on Earth all this time. It's like, again, plot hole. So yeah, I don't know if I liked it or disliked it. I'm just, like I said, I'm just talking about the plot holes. That's all I know. That's what I got out of that reading session, was that it just made me have so many questions. Like we all know there were so many, especially for Venom. Venom had a lot of offspring, like not just Carnage. We're talking about like Scream, Riot, Lasher, Phalanx. Phaser. There's a lot. I'm trying to remember. They bonded together and became hybrid, and I'm probably forgetting a couple others, but there's a lot. And then even Carnage himself, besides Toxin, who is number 100 and is pretty much the most powerful symbiote, he has other siblings. You know what I mean? Like Rays. So, do that make all of them, pointless? If you read it, let me know how you feel about it. For me, I still don't know if I liked it or disliked it. All it did was made me open up my eyes to see that there's a lot of plot holes and ask a lot of questions. Alright then. Later.